This review is also available on downrightcreepy.com. Head on over and check out Downright Creepy for the best in horror news for movies, games, and more. Check it out now. There's something truly incredible about the power of 2D horror. Games like Playdead's Limbo and Jasper Byrne's Lone Survivor evoke an atmosphere so oppressing and peerless that it truly showcases how unimportant and remissive the third dimension can be when bringing forth feelings of dread. Inmost is not quite a horror game. It doesn't focus on jump scares and rarely shows us monstrous entities out for our blood. Instead, it plods along quite tragically, the occasional black goo monster or spider bringing us to an early demise before we're respawned moments earlier, ever so slightly wiser. What it lacks in terms of outright external horror, it chooses instead to focus inwards, which I imagine is no mistake given the game's title. There are three stories at play here, that of the man, the night, and the child. And though they seem completely separate for a large portion of the game's runtime, it's the intrinsic way that the connections between the narratives overlap in the last act of the game that is its absolute finest maneuver. The gameplay when playing as the man, which comprises the bulk of the game, is at its core a simple puzzle platformer, bearing similarities to the aforementioned Limbo, as well as classic 2D adventure platformers like Another World, also known as Out of This World, or Flashback. The sections as the child are almost entirely narratively driven, focusing on the strained relationship between the girl and her parents. The time spent playing as the knight is more action-centric, feeling more akin to something like Hollow Knight or Rogue Legacy than the slower pace found elsewhere within this game. Inmost does not necessarily do anything special in terms of gameplay. Instead, it focuses on the compelling narrative and layered metaphors that brings the game's deep twists and turns to life. The craft of the story lies in setting up expectations or creating a sense of understanding and then tearing that down and unveiling another slightly darker layer just beneath. Something sordid lying just inches away in the darkness at all times. Sadly, in this review I can't speak too much about the final third of the game for fear of spoilers. All I can say is that it legitimately moved me to tears and shut me up, which is, as you all know, no small feat. The story came together tightly in its finale and painted an incredibly dark portrait of love and loss, ownership and thievery, and of sins being unearthed, leading to a tragic cycle of loss. The game does end on a more hopeful note with some truly uplifting dialogue, which in my mind is there to help those dealing with grief and loss of their own. One of my favourite things about the indie sphere is that in these smaller games, developers are free to try challenging, engaging concepts with narratives that we may not have seen before. Inmost is no exception. It sets out to tell a haunting, tragic story and succeeds at just that. The gameplay is almost secondary and, truth be told, it's nothing special. However, if you enjoy games that tell tragic stories in a non-linear fashion, think Annapurna's What Remains of Edith Finch, then Inmost should definitely be on your radar and is well worth a playthrough. Inmost is not going to revolutionise the 2D story-driven platformer, but it's sure to embed itself in your psyche and make you think. Inmost was developed by Hidden Layer Games and published by Chucklefish. It's available on Steam and Nintendo Switch for $14.99. I reviewed this game on Downright Creepy and I scored the game 75% out of 100, which is a very respectable score. The only things that I took any points off really was for, as I say, the gameplay is relatively stock, but it more than makes up for that with its engaging story. The guys, thank you so much for checking out this review. Massive thank you to Downright Creepy for having me on board to write content for their site. Please do me a favour, head on over and check out Downright Creepy. There'll be links in the description to go to their official website, their Twitter, their Twitch. And yeah, please support them. They're amazing people. There's some other amazing contributors involved. And they're, talking all kinds of awesome horror news. So yeah, check them out and stick around. And likewise, if you like what you saw here, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't done already. And or even just give us a thumbs up. And get involved in the comments. Let me know if you played Inmost, what you thought of it, what you thought of my score. And how it affected you. But as always, you guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And yeah, let's survive together. And peace out.